Welcome to the channel, guys. I'm Mike. This is
Travis Sylvester.
but you know him. Tonight we're going to be doing something a little different for you. Stay tuned. You know?
If you don't, now you do know. Bringing that funky back.
Yeah.
It's like we just entered Austin Powers, dude.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah. So for you guys that are tuning in on tonight, if you haven't been able to tell, it's set up a little different for you. We kind of wanted to introduce Mike. Mike is the one who does all of our editing. He also works in the shop.
I do some stuff around here.
Yeah, you do a couple things.
Yeah. I do some stuff with the videos too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were saying today is the 30th episode.
This will be the 30th episode.
So ultimately, we kind of thought it was appropriate time to talk about the why or the how we got here, how this whole channel started, and what we're going to be doing moving forward, and what all this stuff is about. So,
And that'll include moving in a little closer to the mic.
yeah, like this. Oh, yeah.
Do
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, now it sounds good.
Got to get used to this whole deal. I'm used to having like a standing block in my hand.
Me too. It's different. I like it though.
Yeah, a lot cleaner.
It's good. So we want to get into kind of how all this has come about, how Sylvester, how Sylvesters Customs got started, and how we met, how that whole thing came about, how I ended up in the shop with you, and how we've kind of moved into the YouTube thing. And then we want to talk about where this is going from here.
And the old podcast deal.
Yeah,
For those of you guys who are interested.
maybe we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
For sure. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, we're going to be covering this to give the guys inspiration on if you're in your garage and you want to get fired up on your project, how we got here. We want to eliminate a lot of the heartache of 25 plus years, for me at least, on beating my head against a wall on all of the things that we do teach and why. It's because I have literally screwed up every aspect of this over a long period of time.
A long period of time. Yeah, lots of mess ups.
Yeah. But I mean, and ultimately, Mike, just as a background, has been doing this 2 or more than 2 years.
I think we're all getting close to 3.
Yeah. So, I mean, to do what he's doing now in the shop every day and only have 3 years of experience, it's pretty impressive.
Oh, thanks, man. You're all right. So get me started, man. Take me back. Take me back to 1994.
Dude, what is that? Ish. I don't even know what year that is.
Maybe that? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So take me back to where this thing started.
Ultimately, let's see here.
Don't be scared of the mic.
Baseball helmets, man. Little League Baseball.
Do you have nightmares about baseball helmets? Did you used to?
No.
Okay.
So 11 years, 12 years old, I started Little League Baseball, and I wanted to airbrush. So I went to Harbor Freight, picked up a Pache. I want to say it was under $20, especially at that age. Started just airbrushing like flames. I used to put flames on everything. I'm not as bad as I used to be, because then people like Mike started calling me a flamer. Yeah, I know.
On the refrigerator, on the barbecue. Like, you'd come over and there'd be something with a brand new flame job.
Literally, we would put flames on everything. I've had them on several different vehicles, and now I feel like I feel like it has to be the certain kind of car. Otherwise, it just looks retarded. But anyways. So I painted my own baseball helmet, and it just started taking some traction. Ultimately, I think when I was 11 or 12, I did like 50 helmets, or maybe not 50. It was probably realistically at that age, it's probably more like 20. But I did a bunch of helmets for people, other kids on the team. Graduated into doing my dad's actually garden tractor, where I started doing side jobs. And you know, I'm 12 years old doing lawns, weeds, weed abatement, and I'm showing up around the neighborhood. Where I live, we're in Southern California, for the guys who don't know. And I used to be the 12-year-old kid that would cruise around on this garden tractor that was white with blue and silver flames. And everybody was like, who the heck is this kid driving around like?
So we got lucky because Sylvesters Customs could have been Sylvester's weed abatement.
It could have been, and you could be doing trees and abatement.
All your tractors and trucks and excavators would all have flame jobs.
Yeah,
that would have been your painting.
Yeah, I mean,
Crazy.
hey, we have them outside. We can go bring them in and start flaming them out. Yeah. But yeah, did a garden tractor, and then that escalated to I had a Scout in high school, a 66 International Scout. And a lot of what we're going to talk about, for whatever reason, has always kind of derived around International Scouts. They are near and dear to my heart, as well as him. That's pretty much how we have completely met, through mutual friends.
But we'll get into that.
We will get into that.
Yep.
Ultimately, I painted that Scout. I learned a lot of what you don't want to do in a lot of those years, right out of high school and even in high school, with painting my car, my buddy's car. I did a Blazer in high school. The deal was that I would paint his Blazer, and in return, he paid for my $400 spray gun at the time. So that was...
What a deal.
That was a big deal.
Do you still do jobs like that?
No.
Come on.
God, no.
For a buddy.
Yeah,
You do it for a buddy?
Yeah, the buddy, you just teach him how to do it. Let them build
that's what's going on.
That's what's going on.
I'm the test case.
Yeah. So, got a gun, and then
So it is a paint gun.
paint gun. Yes, clarify
Clarify.
for YouTube. But yeah, it's all about traction, right? Like, a lot of guys have these hangups where they think that they have no way of doing that or anything. I didn't have a family member that was a painter. I didn't have, my dad was a mechanic. And although I love mechanics, it didn't really play a part until now, like where we're doing full builds, but it didn't play a part into the fabrication thing. It didn't play a part into the paint. So getting that gun was where it kind of started. You know, you went from an airbrush to a spray gun. Then I painted my truck, or my Scout, which was just white, right? And painted that in my dad's garage, actually in the driveway. I painted my Scout white. It wasn't much of a challenge. It had a rocker that was super messed up. My neighbor had a neighbor at the time, Javier, who did a lot of auto body repairs as like almost like a side gig, which is kind of interesting that plays such a part now, 25 years later. However, he just literally gave me the basics on how do you remove a rocker, how do you pound out the dent, and paint the vehicle. I painted that. An International Scout as a daily driver was not really economical, especially in Southern California with the heat. No air conditioner. It did like 60 miles an hour on a downhill in neutral, like on the biggest hill you could find. Like, it just did not cut it, right? So ultimately, I sold that car. I bought an 86 Dodge pickup, and then I went from that thing and put flames on leftover paint from previous vehicles. Yeah.
You put flames on something?
I put more flames. So that was kind of where it really picked up the traction on high school with me just painting cars. I mean, I literally had flames. I have flames on my arm. It was on everything. It was on my barbecue, my fridge, you name it. Everything had flames.
Let's talk about your dad.
Yeah.
What was I guess it was your dad's advice.
Ultimately, my dad, since he was
do weed abatement.
Yeah. He always said, don't do cars, don't get into the automotive industry. There's no money in it, because he was a mechanic for forever, my entire life. Ultimately, every time, and I listened. I went and worked. I've done everything from drywall, cabinetry, weed abatement, to I worked for the railroad for 15 years. I've done a lot of very different jobs. And every time I venture out and do those quote unquote secure jobs, right? That's what society wants to push on everybody, is go to college, get a good job, get a job that's going to be secure. And then ultimately finding out that your secure job is not as secure as you really think.
So we kind of both went that same kind of route.
Yeah.
Because I was a supervisor for SoCal Gas out here in Southern California, and they start messing with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, we both went to that point where we both were, we made 6-figure jobs, and not saying that to brag, just being real with you guys that we literally have left 6-figure jobs to build cars here and for those of you guys who don't know, this is in my backyard. This is just a 2,000 square foot metal building. It's nothing crazy, but when we started, we literally rolled just a toolbox in here. And to go back to the story, I got let go from the railroad, and at that time, I think I was 23, and I had just got my first house. It was in a track home, 3-car garage. I had my Scout in there. I had a few other little projects, but they were all just my own personal things that I would mess with. And so, yeah, I get let go. And then I went on Craigslist, because Craigslist at the time was the big thing to post ads for work and just put that, hey, I know auto body and paint. I've done a few cars. I posted some before and after pictures. And I get this hideous 4-door 56 Chevy, which ironically is not this one, but
This one.
a 56 Chevy behind us. But yeah, it had a massive amount of cancer. And keep in mind, at the time, I wasn't doing like a ton of welding. I have been a machinist. I had dabbled in all these things. I've built long travel sand cars. I've had a lot of very different jobs. And each time I kind of just jumped in head first, not really knowing what I was getting into. And then realizing now, looking back, every single thing that I've ever dove into like that has played a part some way, shape, or form, whether it been writing a $1 million cost estimate for a railroad, to writing a cost estimate for a car, to machining. Now we have bridge ports in the shop, and we can actually mill out some brackets if we need to. TIG welding, learning that in also the machine shop, just having the will, like just taking the reins and asking for people to teach. Right now we have a guy who we just hired. He's kind of in a little bit of a probationary period, Javier, and Javier came to me just recently and was asking like, hey, I've been trying to get into this.
Didn't he bring you alcohol?
He brought
You
me
a bottle of alcohol.
Yeah.
Smart.
Dude, he's sharp. I mean,
smart dude.
You got to understand, like, when you see an opportunity like that, most people just look at it like, oh yeah, the guy brought me alcohol. Cool. Like, I knew exactly what, that was headed, right? Like, hey man, I've been trying to get a job in this, and, and how I met Javier was he actually took one of our classes. So we've now teach classes here in the shop on weekends here and there. It's been super busy, so it's been hard to do. But what I'm trying to get at here is that if you guys are going to go somewhere and try to do something, it's all initiative based. The more initiative you guys are going to put forth to go out and actually search for doing that job, don't just think that maybe your end all be all is go to college and get a job. Because here's the thing. I mean, and I'm not trying to draw people to do and drop out of college. And the reason that I bring Javier up is because he took my class and then the next day dropped out of college from being a chiropractor.
Sound advice.
Yeah. So, I mean, that tripped me, and I just found that out actually yesterday. So, Javi's been here now, maybe over, but it's probably over a month now already at least, and maybe 2. Anyhow, going back to it, we're doing this whole thing so you guys understand where we come from. We have credibility on why we do these processes that we do all the time is because of all of these heartaches or beating your head against the wall on why we figured it out. And it's literally the details and things. I mean, if you want to take the initiative or do anything, it's all how bad do you want it? I definitely don't tell people that, hey, there's no money in automotive, because that's what I grew up with, right? Don't go into the automotive industry. There's no money in it. You want a secure job. So I did that path. And then I still ended up coming back to automotive. And ultimately it's because I am a car addict, right? Like, I don't just love cars. I eat, breathe. This is my purpose. My purpose is to be around, to do the highest quality restoration work that I can physically do. Where are you going with this? Checking.
Just a relaxed.
Hey, the mic's over here, bro.
I know. We're just doing a relaxed thing tonight, telling stories,
So yeah,
drinking some water.
that's kind of, where we're headed with this whole thing, guys, is we're going to tell you guys the whole long story on how we got here. This 56 Chevy that comes, I took this 56 Chevy on and it paid $2,500 is what I quoted the guy at the time. I did it $2,500 because my house payment was like $2,400 and some change. I had lost my job at the railroad, and here I was 23 years old with a mortgage. So you got to just pivot and figure out how you're going to do it. He was still working at the gas company as a manager.
Paying you to fix the bullnose corners in my house.
Yep.
From that stupid dog.
Yeah. The flies are bad.
To all the people back, like we live in California, but our bugs aren't as big, but they're annoying in California.
You know what? And there was like actually a comment where a guy's like, dude, I would love to have my door open like you guys do, you know? And I'm over here like swatting at gnats. They drive me crazy. I can't imagine what you guys deal with back east.
Nah.
No way.
So anyway, fix the bullnose corners.
I was literally painting houses. I was welding trailers. I was doing anything under the sun to be able to make ends meet. I did not miss a payment through that time because of people like Mike who have reached out, and it's go get it, right? Like sink or swim. Well, I'm still swimming. So we went ahead. That 55 or 56 red 4-door, we'll try to find some pictures maybe and get them over to you too. I don't know.
I think I have some of it done. When you're putting it on the trailer. So I'll see if I can pull those up. Maybe we'll flash them on the screen.
And mind you, like that was a time in my life where we weren't doing anything remotely close to what we're doing now. I feel like that was 2009, give or take, when that was all going down. And we were still literally just dabbling as a hobby. That was just there to make a payment. But here's my point with that. I did that car to the best of my ability at that time. And even though it made that 1 month house payment, I stayed on that car for, I think, over a year.
Took a while.
Took a while to get that thing completely cancer-free and repaint the whole thing, polish the whole bit.
See, you took that car on, and then I went through a divorce, had a kid, everything. And then we were roommates. You were still working on the car, were you, or no?
Yeah, I think I was.
You were finishing it up. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Life's crazy.
Yeah, like just life throws you curveballs and you can't just let them get you down. You know, you got to just keep grinding. But, you know, I took that car on and I perfected a few things, right? You may only perfect a few things with each car, and that's when the bug bites, right? You get that polished car in your driveway and you're like proud of it. And then you're like, okay, well, how can we make it better? How can we make it better? So it's literally been just a toolbox that I worked out of in a 3-car garage, painting it with my neighbors watching, and then just evolved. And then, Mike going through his whole situation, moving in, and then now here we are, and we're working together.
I never saw this coming.
Yeah, I don't
Not
think
back then. Like you would go escape in the garage and disappear for a weekend. Yep. And I would go have a beer out there every once in a while, but I had no interest in getting into this stuff whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I was perfectly comfortable with my gas company job.
Yep.
And like you keep saying, life changes some stuff. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it got to the point where I couldn't see my kid. They were making me commute, but got out of that, did a few other things. And then it finally I guess it was destined to happen. But I ended up out here, and like you're saying, like this stuff's not easy.
No.
It's a grind. You get on a car for the first time and you're doing body work. It's tough and it's discouraging, and it's a grind. Like you have to fight through this stuff to get to the end of it. But anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You just learn a little bit with every struggle, and then eventually the universe opens up and says, "You've suffered enough."
Yeah,
that looks
they throw you
good.
A couple bones.
So,
moving forward, I meet my wife. Mike is living with me at the time. You know, he's divorced, so it's always kind of flip-flopped. And then now we have your daughter also coming and staying at the house. My wife, who is also a crazy go-getter, she runs her own business down in the house now.
They can't see that. Down there.
Yeah. Down there, guys. Behind where you're watching. Anyhow, she had said, you know, I dated many women that said, "Oh, I want to buy a house," right? Well,
many, like 2.
Yeah, that you know of. So she's like, "Yeah, I want to buy a house." I said, "Oh, prove it. There's a house down the street for sale." And lo and behold, she went and bought that house. Literally, 2 streets down. And at the time, I was doing a Volkswagen Bug for a coworker of the railroad. So I've worked for the railroad now for 15 years, and I just quit May 1st of 22. And we're in July. Are we in July?
I think so.
Almost August. So keep in mind, this is all very, very recent for me to be here self-employed. But I've always done this as a hobby that has turned and just literally, it's a snowball. We moved into her house. She had a 3-car garage. I literally pushed the Bug on casters down the street to her house, continued doing customer cars until we decided to flip her house 2 years after that.
Kick old Mikey to the curb.
We kicked old Mikey.
Figure it out.
And that was only 6 months. We lived in our motorhome for 6 months on my parents' property. And then we saved up. We had a savings from flipping both the houses. And ultimately, we moved into where you guys are seeing today. Moving in here, which was...
There's actually a house down there.
Yeah, no. We live in the paint booth.
You live in the 55 right here.
Yeah. Fast forward to now, I did a friend of mine, Scott's 55 Chevy. All I had in this shop when we first moved in was one red toolbox, a MIG welder. I'm trying to remember. Literally, I kid you not, one hammer, one dolly. They weren't nice. And everything has just kind of evolved from that. So it's cool because I still see that 55 around the car shows because it's local to where I am. But there was one thing that Scott told me, and he goes, have you ever decided to take this on and do this as an actual business? And I said, well, no, because everybody says a lot of work. Like my dad has always told me, it takes a lot of hours to be able to put that into your own business. And so I just wasn't doing it. And Scott said a couple things to me that really resonated. And it was, well, what time is it right now? And I think it was like 10 o'clock at night that night. And he goes, what time did you get up and go to the railroad today? And I said, well, 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And he goes, and you're still working till 11:30 at night. Yeah. Well, do you think owning your own business is any more than that? That comment was the shift onto what?
Don't cry on the mic, dude.
Fuck, man. We're going to redo that one.
No, we're keeping it. This is a straight flow, straight through. This is real. Passion. No. It's passion. It's your dream.
Yeah. It's just crazy that you have it's fucking hot in here.
I know. I work hard at this.
No. I mean, ultimately, it's that comment that was the shift. It was the realization to, hey, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can do this for a living. So I literally took that point in time and started just rolling with it. Like, hey, let's see how many cars we can physically do. He had a car club. He owned a Precision Alignment in Temecula. He had a lot of car buddies. And not that I got much work from his shop. We got, I think, a couple maybe. But ultimately, it was just getting one out, getting another in, and just people seeing it, right? Like, and then now you got social media. Everything has, if you guys don't follow on Instagram, that's kind of where this whole shop has really, really picked up its traction to get the waiting list that we have, to get the cars that you're seeing here now. And now the YouTube thing just plays a whole nother role to a bigger window, bigger picture. But ultimately, that car I see at the shows, like I was saying, and I nitpick it to death because there's so many things that we do now that you think about. And that's what I'm trying to hang my hat on here at the end of the day, is showing you guys how to not do the hard things that way like we did. Save you the heartache. Whether you're buying a car, whether you're building a car, or this is your very first, like you guys all have the capabilities to be able to do a freaking high-end show car in your garage. And a lot of people don't think that. Or maybe they're going to take it to a shop and they're going to get taken for money, because I've had that happen too.
So 3 years ago, you put me on a door to bodywork.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that take? Do you remember?
Forever.
It took over a week
Yeah.
for a door. Now, with this car behind us, I skim coat the whole side of this thing and blocked it down in like 7 hours. No, 2.5. And then I went back and had to fill some lows and stuff. But going from doing a whole side of a car in a day or two versus a door.
Like weeks.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you thought it was done and then we'd have to go back and redo the whole thing.
Loved that.
Yeah.
Yo, check it out, bro. What's that?
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's
It is
hard.
very hard.
It's a struggle. Well, I guess we talked about the scouts, the shop.
Well, we kind of talked about the scout. Scouts are very interesting to us because how I met him was of a mutual buddy who flagged me down on a road. Like I didn't know Frank. We talk about Frank because Frank originally owned the 55 that Scott owned, who owns Precision Alignment, who we did in this shop. So it's interesting that was the first car. Like, and there's a lot of things that I do that I get goosebumps, and things I believe in happen for a reason. If you're dealing with nothing but negativity and bad, it's because that's what you're surrounding yourself with. And if you want to surround yourself with positive people and a direction to do better, it's going to go tenfold. It may not go that way at first, but eventually you will start picking up traction and do things the right way.
So I think we need to get into that story because it's actually a pretty wild story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you got the car, you didn't know the Frank side?
No, I was actually going, I had already painted it, and keep in mind, like nobody, I don't want to say nobody, now it's a lot more popular, but back in early 2000s, nobody was restoring International Scouts. You only saw them like sitting in the back of a yard, rusting away. So I had restored this thing, and the whole basis of why I wanted a Scout was because we used to go out to Deep Creek in the high desert here, and I watched one of those old Scouts go through this creek, and it was just him and a Cherokee going back and forth and to see who would get stuck first, and then they would laugh at each other, and I was like, I want a Scout. That thing's badass. So I got a 66 with a 4-cylinder in it, and I'm driving this painted vehicle down to the local tire shop here in town, and this guy Frank literally stops me, and he's like waving out the window like I know who he is, and he's not in a Scout. He followed us to the tire shop, gets out, introduces himself, says, "Hey, there's not very many people around here, and I live right down the street." And we were like, "Yeah, we live down the street too." He's like, "I'll bring my Scout by," and we're like, "Yeah, we're not going to see him again." Well, Frank comes back, and sure enough, he has a Scout 2. And that Scout 2 was lifted sky high, 35s. Like it was amazing build. It wasn't showy with paint, but it was just all original and then beefed up, right? Well, that Frank's nephew, right, is Herb? Frank's nephew.
You can't ask me questions when I'm checking on the camera.
I know,
dude.
Man.
But yeah, my roommate at the time was Frank's nephew.
And Frank's nephew, I became friends with just through hanging out with Frank, and that's how I meet Mike. So it's always interesting how you kind of end up going down these paths in life. Sometimes you never have a clue where it's going to go, right?
But before we get into going farther, I really like that story of Frank and that it's a 55 Chevy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did that come up, right? So Scott owned it. You were doing the paint job. And then Frank came over here, or how did you find out?
Frank decided to sell the car one day. My dad, who being a mechanic, knew who Scott was through Precision. So he went there for alignment, and I think they were just talking, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to buy a Tri-5." And my dad was like, "I know a guy with a Tri-5 that's been sitting under a carport forever, and it's like in really, really good shape, patinaed, And anyway, Scott goes, and it just so happens that he buys the car. Well, I took my truck at the time to go get an alignment, and I'm like, "Oh, you bought Frank's car?" And he goes, "Yeah." And there's like a dent in the back. And I said, "Man, what'd be cool is just to fix that dent, and I'll paint it to look patina like it never got touched." And just to kind of more or less as like hey, let's see what we can do with this, right? Well, that alone snowballed into we were going to do just that. Then it was the quarters, then it was the roof, and we ended up doing the whole car. Wasn't a rotisserie or nothing, but it was a clean car. Ultimately, that car ends up getting restored. You know, it's got LS in it now and everything else. But going back to Mike comes to me one day and he's like, "Hey, I want to build a car." What'd you want to build, Mike?
Hold on. So that was Scott's car back when he was in high school, right? Didn't he have that car for a long time? Not Scott, Frank.
Frank had the car in high school.
So Frank ends up getting diagnosed with cancer.
Yep.
Terminal cancer. And Travis had just finished painting it up and talked to Scott. Scott got a hold of Frank. And took Frank for I'm getting goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
Took him for a ride in this car, fully restored, that he had from high school.
Yep.
That's the story, right?
That is the story.
And then, I mean, it wasn't much longer after that, maybe a month or two, and Frank passed.
Right.
But yeah, man, huge goosebumps. But that's how cars ties together.
Yep.
Like, it's crazy.
That's how, like, your podcast, everything as a whole, like the YouTube channel.
Nobody knows about the podcast yet.
We're
going to talk about that at the end.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's always crazy, right? Like how that whole thing went full circle, just that part of that story. And then now looking back, and then Mike comes to me and he's like, "Hey, I want to build a car. I want to learn how to do this." And he says, "I want to build
a Volkswagen."
And
those are stupid.
You
said they were stupid. Don't be trying to make friends now.
The guys that are Volkswagen guys, no offense. I actually enjoy Volkswagens, but I'm like, if you're going to do something, do a Scout. What better thing to kind of just build with off of what we've already met each other through is Scouts. And so we go and buy this Scout.
Oh my God. So we ended up in
Downey, right?
Oh, where was that?
No, I bought mine.
It was right off the 605.
Out towards Westminster?
It was farther out. I don't remember what city it was, but we show up.
Yep.
And it's in this guy's garage. And he had been working on it with his dad. His dad ended up getting cancer and couldn't help him finish it.
That's right.
So he sold it. I think we got it for $1,800.
Yep. I think they were asking 25. We got it for 18.
Then we did our favorite thing where we call AAA, have them show up and
tell them it broke down.
There's no seats in it. I don't think there was a windshield on it. Nothing was bolted down. I think
it had a lot of parts inside, but they weren't bolted down.
No.
They were all in boxes and crates.
And I remember it took forever. They kept sending us they wouldn't send us a flatbed. They're like, "No, you don't understand. We need a flatbed." Like, this thing's really broken down.
Yeah.
It's like broken down like you can't drive. It needs to be restored, broke down.
Which is even funnier because going back, I can recall actually moving from my dad's house to a different house. And that 56 I was doing the fab work at my dad's because I didn't have 220 in my garage. And I called AAA and they showed up and there was no doors, no fenders, no windows, no electrical. And the guy's like, "You broke down?" I was like, "Yeah, it's crazy. The doors fell off and everything." Like,
you should have seen the rat that showed up.
And hey, AAA towed it.
Yeah, they're good. They just like to ask questions.
They're a little more nitty gritty now on the questions.
So we tow the Scout back to the house in Elsinore. And we pull the thing off the trailer. And this guy goes,
"Dude, you got to drive it.
We got to drive it.
You got to drive it."
I ain't driving that thing. He goes, "We'll get in." So we ended up putting 5-gallon buckets down, and we're sitting and we start cruising through the neighborhood. We didn't know what worked on it and what didn't. Turns out one brake worked.
One, not like the front or the back. So corner.
We start going down that hill, and it's not a huge hill. It's just a bunny slope. It's like a bunny slope. And he hits the brakes, and that one wheel just locks up, and you're just hearing...
Yeah, jams everything. We know what? It did have a seat. It had a back seat.
Yeah.
Because it hit us.
Yeah, it wasn't
and threw us in the dash into the windshield like a bug.
We couldn't move it back.
So I'll never forget back when you were married to Lacey, she's like, "Would you guys bring home a dumpster?" Remember that?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he still owns that Scout today.
Yeah.
And I now have a 78, which I've had for... So here's another story.
I have a 78 too.
Yeah.
But it's a 70.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Welcome to California, folks.
73.
Yeah. Another interesting story. So I'm working for railroads. I'm working in Mount Shasta. I used to drive 12, 13 hours for work, and then we'd work 8 days on, 6 days off.
Oh my God.
I am in a hotel room.
Forgot about this, but it all just came flooding back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, all these stories are like, they're goosebumps type stories. They're super awkward, but I don't know why they always end up around an international scout. And that's why we have to build these cars like to the fullest extent, right? So I'm sitting with a buddy of mine who is in the coffee shop, and we're sitting there, and this gal walks up to pour the coffee, and she's like, "Oh, good morning, gentlemen. Do you know anybody interested in an international scout?" And I'm like, "Really? I just sold all my stuff because I had just started working for the railroads, and I wasn't doing any projects at the time because I just got my house payment." And I'm like, "I don't need a project." I go, "Well, how much you want for it?" And she goes, "Oh, I want $600. And I'm like, "Well, it's a basket case." So I'm like, "Not interested."
What did she want the $600 for?
No, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So she leaves. She's like, "Okay, no problem." So next day comes around, and she walks up, and she goes, "Yeah, drove the Scout around the property last night. Still drives good if you're still interested." And I'm like, "Wait, this thing drives for $600?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so she gives us literally, like, we just met this gal. She gives us an address, and if you guys have ever been to Mount Shasta, it's like population 10 is what it feels like. There's nobody up there. And she's trusting strangers to go to her house, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the keys are in the ignition. Start it up, drive it around. Let me know tomorrow during your coffee what you think." So we go look at this thing, and it's original paint, 345. It was awesome. But I could stick my arm through the wheel well because it was just so cancered out from the snow up there. Ultimately, I come back the third day, and I'm like, "All right, I'll give you $400. And she comes back. She's like, "Nope, I got to get $500 minimum." I'm like, "Well, what do you got to get the $500 for?" She's like, "Oh, I'm getting a Dyson vacuum." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Tell you what, I'll give you the $500, but you got to hold it for the whole time that I'm coming back home, and I'm going to drive all the way pulling a trailer and pick this thing up." I literally drove it on my trailer and drove it all the way back from Mount Shasta. So I'm doing this thing, restoring it in my garage, and this was in Menifee, on jack stands. I can actually recall pulling the motor, and the trans was still in it, and the whole thing fell. I even have a picture of that on the jacks.
We have bad luck with transmissions, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, with yours. So, long story short, I still have that 78 in the back, and it's taken quite some transformation. It's kind of on hold because of other builds that I have going on, but trust me, out of all the Scout stories, the goal here is to build one of the baddest international Scouts, and then Mike's going to hopefully be doing his too around the same
Guess
time.
I'm going to have the second baddest.
The baddest Scouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scouts.
There you go.
So let's get in the YouTube thing. How did this whole thing come about? So I was working here with you, and I have a lot of background in photography, more photography back when I started with you than video work, but I've slowly gotten into doing more and more video.
Slowly.
And
Slowly.
it's an expensive hobby. Why isn't my Scout getting done? This is why, guys.
Here it is. Here's your LS swap right here.
Yeah, it's exactly. But I started working on a channel with somebody else, and it ended up falling through. And we were talking about it, but everybody talks about it, and that kind of it made me want to get it done, get something going. Mm-hmm. So I talked to you, and we just started shooting it and figuring it out. I guess we're still shooting it and figuring it out.
Yeah, this is literally like the first test run with these things. I mean, they sound pretty cool. Hopefully the audio comes out super awesome. It sounds like it will, but
we're still going to be shooting the educational stuff for the YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like this. This is leaning more into the podcast stuff that we're going to talk to you guys about. But the YouTube thing for us started because we want to give back.
Yep.
Like, you've spent a lot of time and you like educating people.
I've always liked educating or teaching. I've taken a lot of classes myself, but going back to like across the board, you guys who have taken cars to a shop, how many times do you go to a shop and you have this crazy long wait? It's because the guys that are good at doing something have a wait list. Like that's just all there is to it. If you go to a painter and they don't have a wait list, either there's two things. They're just starting out like I was, or they're just not good. And in the end of the day, there's so many skilled tradesmen that are needed in this world right now. Like you don't have to be into automotive, but that's us giving back to automotive, right? Like I want to be able to teach and educate people on that. They're just because you're a body guy shouldn't be looked at as not a skilled trade. It should be looked at as an art form, because that's ultimately what this is. Like doing what you did with this 56 is not just a skilled trade. Like when we're done with this thing, it's literally going to be a rolling piece of art. Mm-hmm. And there's some value to that. Like people pay good money for quality work. And, you know, like how did this start, right? The YouTube thing, a lot of the stuff used to be very raw, just, hey, this is what I'm doing on Instagram every day. And it used to be tutorials. And I used to get a lot of people go like, hey, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? And that's where this kind of drove to, because now we have this list of cars that we got to produce from just Instagram, and it's growing because of YouTube and what you're doing with this whole channel. But hey, giving back to the small guy, the guy in the garage, that doesn't want to just do, there's nothing wrong with a car that's just done to like 80% as a whatever driver. Maybe our video helps you get through that one hurdle that you're fighting. But the whole goal with what we're doing is we're trying to show you guys like the nitty gritty of how to build the most perfect. And keep in mind, I'm not perfect. My processes are not going to be to the highest quality. We have things daily, weekly that we find a better way, or you find a problem and you kind of just got to pivot. Everything about this whole process is just learning and pivoting, taking classes and educating you guys. So that's why we always talk about like share what you know and continue to learn, because that's what we're hanging our hat on, man. I mean,
yeah, I think the big thing for us is sharing something that gives purpose.
Yep.
A lot of us in our daily lives go to these corporate jobs like we were at, and you go home and you're comfortable.
Yep.
And you start to lose whatever your purpose is.
Yes.
And I think a lot of depression and stuff in society now is caused because of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I have my story on that too. Maybe we'll get into that in the podcast we haven't talked about yet. But as men, we need to start finding things that we can find purpose in, things that we have to struggle with and overcome things and become better. So this is what we do. Like we do cars. So if you're interested in cars, we want to show you how to do it and get through it the best possible way, and maybe not make all the mistakes. You're going to have mistakes, but maybe not make all of the mistakes that you've gone through. I haven't been doing as long as you, but I've done my fair share of stupid things.
Well, you're proof of what we're doing, our process works.
The system works.
Here you go. I mean, and we're going to show you guys on several projects. We have 8 cars here right now, and we're going to be showing every single bit of what we do, how we do it. Open book, no smoke and mirrors, no BS. Like it's the raw. This is how it's done. It's not a TV show where everybody can build the entire car, interior, motor, everything for $15,000, because that's all you see in society. What people put out on TV is not what the reality is when you're doing this level of cars.
No, and I think we had somebody comment on the last video talking about how it took 8 hours for them to bodywork something above the third taillight and a couple other things. And they didn't realize how much actually goes into this and how much experience actually plays. So don't think you're going to watch our videos and you're going to walk out to your project and you're going to knock it out.
Yeah. This is going to take a grind.
We're giving you the information. You have to take that information and then practice it and get better at it. If not, it's just information.
Yep. And a lot of that information, I constantly say it when I even take a class. Like if I can take a class and learn one crazy good valuable thing that I can take home to this shop and it made my workflow better or process better, then it was worth it. But I can tell you this, what's cool, like there's some guys online, especially Instagram, I'm not going to name them, that are so proud of what they do. They put a lot of smoke and mirrors out there for people to, oh wow, look what they can do. But they're not giving any value to anybody if they're not going to share the information. And they go, well, I don't want to share anything. I don't like, I like physical learning where people actually have to go and pay for a class. And that's cool. But in the end of the day, if you can go back to a video that's online and watch it again, because maybe you got one thing that one day, but then you went and you struggled for a week doing that one thing. If you come back and watch the majority, if not all of our videos, then you're going to get more and more value out of those videos every time you watch those videos, because once you physically do it, you're going to realize how much stuff you missed over. It's the details. It's the small things.
Mm-hmm. It's the struggle. You have to go through the struggle before you can hear things.
Yep.
So that's the YouTube channel. This is the YouTube channel, but that's what we're trying to do for you guys. We're trying to get you guys to the best you guys can possibly be in your garage, and we're trying to bring it to you at the best quality we can.
Yep.
So giving you good audio, giving you some good video. Really, at the end of the day, it's him and me. That's it. We're not making all kinds of money on YouTube.
No.
We can't pay somebody else to come in here and
with our whole 14,000 followers
we
and your $200 a month for your 28 days worth of work. Yeah.
But that's why I keep disappearing. I got to get over there and make sure the camera's still going. So it's these little things, right? That we're doing what we can. We're doing the best we can in every aspect.
Yep.
And the guys that are following us and that are learning and are pushing themselves to make their cars the best they can, that's our reward.
Yeah.
We're not getting rich off this.
And ultimately the reward too, like for you guys that are believers in what we do and why we do it, like the more you guys share those with your other car buddies, that's how this whole thing's going to grow as a whole. Like we need you guys to show your buddies what we do, because that's how YouTube works, man. Like we get a little bit of kickback, right? Like you're $200 because I'm just, it's Sylvesters Customs for what I've built over a lot of years. But in the end of the day, like he spends so much time, 17 to 25 hours per video editing.
Maybe not that much time.
Well, you're getting better. But at the beginning, you didn't.
I'm averaging probably 6.
It's 10:40 p.m. right now
12.
On a
Tuesday night.
Yeah,
but we when we shoot these, we're not getting to bed till 1.
Yeah.
And then we're still coming in the next day.
Yeah.
So by no means is any of this easy.
Mm-mm.
But we're not saying that so you guys will feel bad. We're saying that because we want you guys to understand what's going into it. And we want you guys to be proud of what we're putting out there for you. And like you said, share it. Share it with a couple of people.
Yep.
That's how you help this grow.
It's a free fee.
It's a free fee. And don't complain about the ads. We had somebody say something about
like
too many ads.
Yeah, because we put those in there.
But the thing is, we're putting this out there for free for you guys. And we're not expecting anything in return from you. And YouTube has bills they have to pay. And yeah, we might get a little bit, but like you said, it's not much.
Yeah.
I mean, what I get a month on YouTube, I should be getting paid probably 2 to 3 times more per video.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it works out to. But we're just doing this to give back. We're doing this because we like what we're doing.
Yep.
And we want to see and hear other people tell us about what they're doing.
Yep.
That's the pay for us too, right? Like, so share it and share your stories. Let us know in the comments what you guys are working on. Let us know maybe the struggles you've had.
And what are those struggles? What do you guys want to see?
Yeah.
What do we need to, 2 things, right? What do you struggle with? So one, maybe we do like we did with Chris Garcia, where we do a tutorial with you if you're local. Maybe it's a call-in, maybe it's
on the podcast that we haven't talked about yet. Okay.
And at the same time, if you see us doing something, I'm totally open to criticism, guys. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't wholeheartedly believe in what we do, because I have literally, like I said, I've screwed up every single process down to like stupid things. I mean, you want to know what happens to clear coat when you spray it with the water hose? Like stupid things. I kid you not.
You've said that a couple times now. You got something different?
Not on this video.
No, this.
No, but like literally, you want to paint a car in the dirt. You know what I mean? You want to paint next to a dairy farm like we are right now
God.
with no paint booth. Do you want
to let us know it? Let us know what you guys are struggling with.
Yeah.
Put it in the comments.
And put us on blast if you think you can do it better, because again, I want to learn if there's a better way.
But before you put us on blast, watch the whole video.
Yeah.
Because we get comments all the time. I think was the last one I caught. It was on the welding video. And somebody asked the question of, what were your settings on the welder when we just spent, I don't know how long that video was, but we just spent, I don't know how long trying to teach you what to listen for and how to really dial in your welder.
Everybody wants instant gratification these days. That's the problem. But dude, ultimately, like if you guys really like doing cars and it's a passion, like just sit there and pick away at that passion until you can just do it full time. I mean, he did it. He drove 2 hours into LA during his management through SoCal Gas. I used to spend the same amount of time. I kid you not, from where we lived to where we were working, I worked in downtown LA for a lot of years, night shift. So it was do the grind, right? I would get to work at 9 p.m. and then get off at 4 or 5 in the morning and then come home, sleep a couple hours and do this, because I was already running this business while I was working full time for the railroad for quite a few years. The entire time still training him. And now we have 2 other guys now that also work here too. So it literally has just been, you do this bit, right? Like you got your normal job and then you can just sit there and take your passion project and keep building it until eventually you just disconnect and you can do what you truly love. I'm living proof. And especially now, like I only have a couple months under my belt. I can truly tell you guys that I don't really feel like I work. Yes, it's almost 11 o'clock at night. And yes, I've been working since 5 a.m. But when now I understand the term, you don't work a day in your life if you do what you love. And it's true. Like I don't feel like this is work. I get to hang out with one of my best buddies every day and we get to build cool stuff. Like
who's the other best buddy? One of your best buddies.
The guy, behind the camera.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this podcast.
Oh, you're going to reveal it finally, huh?
Yeah, might as well. I keep saying it.
Okay.
So the reason we're doing this video and shooting it this way is because we're going to be starting, well, I guess it's going to be more of my thing. You're going to be on it as much as possible. But what I want to do is we're going to have this kind of setting where we're talking to people like you and talking about your stories and talking about your cars and your builds. Maybe they're done, maybe they're not. But we want to hear the struggles. We want to hear what you've gone through to get to where that project is now. And the reason we want to do that is because we have the educational side with the YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. The podcast is going to be more of, I don't want to say encouragement, but it's going to be a place where you can go and listen to other people's stories and be motivated on your own projects. And like I said, the finding purpose thing is a huge thing here. And we really want to help you guys in any way that we possibly can. So we're trying different things to get this stuff out to you. So the podcast is going to be called The Restoration Underground. I'm going to talk about my story more. Travis has pretty much killed his story.
Yeah.
I think
I beat that to death.
Nobody wants to hear it anymore.
Probably not.
But we're going to have people call in from across the country. We're going to be talking about their projects. It's going to be good. It's going to be more entertaining. So if you're looking for something that...
Maybe you're commuting.
Yeah.
I used to listen to a lot of things on just commuting. Maybe you're not physically seeing it, but you're getting a lot of good information. I mean, look at, if you guys aren't following like Andy Frisella as an example, he has gave me a foundation of building what we've been building to be able to quit. You know what I mean?
Well, right now he's still doing it. We've been doing the 75 hard.
Oh, you're getting it
So
all out of the bag. We're almost out now.
Yeah. So what are we on? Day 65 today of 75. I'm down 40 pounds just about.
And I'm down 29.
Yeah. And we just feel good. Like we're pushing ourselves to the max. We're pushing ourselves to be better. And we want to hear other people's stories about that. We want to be encouraged. And I guess we just want men to be men again. You know, we're tired of seeing us getting stomped down. And what we're doing is cars. And we relate to cars. So we want to talk to other guys that relate with cars. And any way we can help you.
Whether it be a product, maybe it was a guy who started a product in a business. Maybe it was a guy who was restoring a car. Maybe it was a guy who bought a car and their story. Whatever. Who knows where it's going to go.
But it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to interesting people and we're going to hear their stories.
And you got this really cool soundboard for us.
It sounds really good.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the podcast. We'll probably be getting that out in the next couple of weeks or so. So we'll announce it on the YouTube channel and we'll put it on our
Instagram as well.
Yeah, we'll do it on the Instagram too. So where's this going, man? Where's this shop going?
Oh man, that's a big question, right? Where do I see it going? I mean,
because it's pretty tight in here right now.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to expand at some point. To go back to like this building, right? I liked airbrushing. Airbrushing led to painting vehicles as a whole. That you then refine bodywork. Then you come across having an area that is bad in metal. So then take coach smithing, coach building classes, metal shaping, and then metal finishing classes, etc. Right? I have a fabrication background that, you know, with building roll cages and everything. I mean, we're literally buying tools monthly, if not weekly. We just bought a tube bender. I mean, I'm literally just going to keep on.
There it is, sitting in the middle of the shop.
Yeah, we don't have enough room as it is. I mean, I'm going to cram pack this. The whole goal here is we're going to try to be taking on less vehicles at one time. Because like I said, right now I have stuff in my personal garage. I got stuff in here. We got stuff sitting under tarps outside waiting to come in. I'm just trying to narrow down and be picky choosy on what we do and do it at a very high quality, a good product, and then see where this goes. I mean, we got a couple first full builds. We're doing full sheet metal floors, cancer repair. We're doing roadster shop chassis, 1,000 horsepower supercharged builds. And the goal is we're just going to keep on pecking away at it. I mean,
are we going to still try to work that 61 Impala in 24 hours?
Yeah.
So the 61 Impala, when it's ready and the metalwork's all done, we're going to work 24 hours straight and see how far we can get that car, hopefully done. Like, that'd be rad. And the reason I kind of came up with this, and I'm going to hate myself in those 24 hours, I'm sure.
Yep.
But when I did that door when I first started this, I was miserable. And I really want to push myself and kind of see what I've gotten to. And we're still a ways out. A year maybe. But we're pushing. We're constantly pushing ourselves. And the way you test yourself is to do crazy things.
Put yourself in uncomfortable places.
Yeah. So that 61 Impala, we're going to work for 24 hours straight. And we're going to get that bodywork done.
Keep in mind, we're going to have a year. Well, we say year, but we're really waiting on a chassis all the way most of the time.
Roadster shop.
Which, you know, hey,
thanks, Roadster Shop.
They're the top dogs, right? I mean, it is what it is. You got to wait. Like we keep saying it. Anybody who's good, you got to wait. But
so to give them credit, right? Like, they're waiting for things just like everybody else is.
Yep.
And that's delaying things. So it's not their fault.
And that's how ours is going to be rolling out. I mean, that's why your guys aren't seeing quite as much on the 61 right now, is because we're waiting on parts. So as we get parts in, we'll show you guys more and more. And then when we have everything we need, we will literally go hot and heavy in tutorials on how to do those things.
So the 61 Impala is a full build.
Yep.
Are we going to do full builds?
I'll tell you guys after we get the full build done. I mean, obviously we're going to farm out electrical and interior, and I have a good buddy doing the motor and a good buddy doing the trans. I don't really have any intention. I say that now, but I've said things in the past that I didn't think I was going to do, so I'm not going to say no. But I mean, like I said, if we go big enough building to where I can bring on guys who are specialty motor builders or whatever, and we as a whole become a good team, then that's what it is. But I'm just going to keep on pushing on. I don't plan on letting up.
No, can't.
No.
Come too far.
I mean, that's kind of why we did 75 hard, right? Like, dude, seriously, guys, if you guys don't know who Andy is or any of those guys, sometimes I get friends that knock the motivational thing because that's what this kind of has turned into, right? But like, dude, there's some truth behind it, man. I have friends that knock it, but then later in life are doing different things. So level up. I mean, push yourself, and sky's the limit. I didn't think I would be able to lose almost, like, I'm literally a pound away. I could be there 30 pounds tomorrow. My goal was 30 pounds, 75 days. We're 10 days out from being done. And dude, you're killing it too. It's just, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want your car done?
Yep.
How much are you going to go out there and grind? How much are you going to make it a priority? Because if you don't, and you just say, oh, I'm going to wait for the right time, that time's going to come and pass, and you're going to regret it. So don't regret it. Get on with sharing the videos. Get on there. Get a buddy who's got a car in a garage, and you guys both need to start at the same time and push.
Yeah, because that's fun.
Yeah, here you are.
I guess that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's how it started. So kind of covered a lot. I think we're...
How far is this thing? Way over an hour, yeah?
Yeah, I think we're at about an hour. So please continue to watch, guys. Please share. And when the podcast starts, we will let you guys know.
One last thing to add is we always do these videos, and then at the end we stop and we talk about it, just me and him. Or even when Carrie's here when we're filming, and we always like openly talk about some of the things, and we're like, oh man, we should have added that soundbite in. And because we don't know like if you guys will watch that or listen to that. So this is also part of an experiment. Like, are you guys going to listen to us just sit here and talk about this? There is a lot of value in just talking about this, even if it's throwing the YouTube thing on your phone in your car driving and just listening. There is so much good value. Like, you just, maybe it's how we mix something and what the ratio was or whatever. Like, maybe that helps you. I don't know. But as a whole,
so you're saying this is the end of the real video?
Yeah.
But we'll probably keep talking, and maybe we'll leave that in after the outro.
Yeah. I mean, moving forward, let us know what you guys think. What did you get out of it that was good? What did you get out of it that you didn't like? Give us some feedback.
No, don't tell us what you didn't like. We only like hearing what you liked.
I want to hear it all. Raw form. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this. Just a little backstory. We got a lot of things coming for you guys. So please help us share this channel, and we'll see you guys next week.
Share what you know.
And continue to learn.
We'll see you guys.